Which way do we go? That way? Out around there?
Yes.
¿Por acá se baja? ¿A Cusco?
Sí, that's it.
Puente, frente. ¿Cusco o...?
No, nos vamos al valle.
Al valle.
Hi guys. So this is what I did was while I was in Cusco, I met up with Peru Moto Tours, and I asked if I could hire one of their riders for a day to take me on a tour through the Sacred Valley. As I'd already been in Machu Picchu, I wanted to go through a few towns and villages and go off the beaten track a little bit. So these little girls coming around the corner. So you can see these drains in the middle. Some of them are like a foot wide, and some of them are just a little drains to the middle. So you've got to ride right across them. You don't want to get stuck in one of those. You'll do some pretty big damage to your tyres if you're doing it wrong. So yeah, so basically a guy named Christopher, who's a local Peruvian guy. He spoke decent English, and he basically took me on a tour, and we stopped lots of times, and you know, we had lunch somewhere, and he explained different parts, and we went to the Maras salt mines. So the Sacred Valley is a huge area that makes up even Machu Picchu is part of the Sacred Valley of the Incas, and this guy's a really experienced rider, so he was pretty flat chat on the dirt roads that we went on. I was struggling to keep up with him, and he had a lot lighter bike as well, but he was, you know, he's a good rider, you know. And there was a couple of tracks we didn't go up because he said we'd had too much rain and there's too much mud and stuff like that. And he said, we don't want to be spending our day doing it. So on the back of this bike, I've got the TG, the Olympus Tough TG tracker one, which has some image stabilisation built in, but when the bike's shaking as much as what these do, it does shake anyway. The only other option is to get a three-axis gimbal to do it, but even then, and what you can do is also put some foam at the bottom of your mount, so that it actually absorbs a little bit of it. I didn't do that in this particular thing, on this particular trip. But we went about 250, 270 kilometres for the day, up and down mountains, through valleys, across rivers. It was a really great fun day's riding, and he was really good. And so if you do get an opportunity and you're going through different towns, I would highly suggest that you do something like this, where you if you can afford it, hire a local rider, especially if you're in a really crazy good area. I did it here. I also did it in Bolivia, Death Road. I mean, Death Road ended up being twice the adventure because of the guy we hired. So here we're going across a bridge, and he wanted me to stop, set up, so that I could get a photo of me crossing the bridge. So he went across the bridge first, and then he took a photo. But as my video was running on the back, so the Olympus has a couple of things. It has like a couple of settings where you can take a photo every 10 seconds or whatever you set it as. We went across a couple of these bridges. They're pretty cool. They move around a little bit when you're on them. It was quite a steep little hill there. It doesn't look steep. But yeah, I'd always suggest if you're going somewhere cool and there's a group of you, even if it's probably better if there's a group of you, it won't cost you much, but hire a local rider from a tour place and just say, look, I don't want to do any of your tours, I just want to hire a local guy who can take us for a whole day in all these different places. And that guy will normally map out a pretty good trip for you, where you would go where you wouldn't normally think of going. So we rode along the river, and then we basically took some tracks up and down mountains and stuff like that, which ended up being really cool and a lot of fun. That wasn't too bad. There was a fair bit of mud on one of them, a lot of water lying around, and so there was a couple of them were only single trackers, so you know, you didn't have much room to move. But it was really good fun. He was a really good guy. We stopped and had lunch somewhere really nice as well. But it's just beautiful riding around this region. If you get a decent day, it's even better. Go through lots of little villages that the main highways bypass. Just got to stay out of those centre tracks. And usually with these guys, you can always you're always able to stop quite a few times, you know. So we just kept going on roads, and then we'd go off road for 10-20 minutes, then back onto a road, and then up another track somewhere. And usually it's just locals and farmers and things like that. It was all very cool. My bike and tyres handles this sort of stuff pretty well. It doesn't have any issues. When we did the Bolivia one, the guy had like an off-road bike, and he was just gunning it everywhere, and it was myself and Chris were struggling to keep up with him all the time. This guy Christopher sort of took his time. He wasn't that much in a rush. These sort of roads are just, this is what you'll get a lot, like when they're untouched, like the government doesn't really get in and friggin' they just leave them alone. They get pretty messy when you come into town sometimes, but as soon as the government starts interfering with them and they just throw rock on them and they dig them up, they become like a mess. So just cruising along there, 60-65 kilometres an hour, 40 miles an hour. A few trucks on the road as well, like just local farmer trucks and stuff like that, so we always have to be a little bit mindful of that. My bike makes a friggin' amazing sound when it accelerates. I mean, it's not an amazing sound, but it just feels pretty cool, you know. So Machu Picchu was an amazing experience, you know, definitely something you've got to do once in a lifetime. And a lot of these people too on these dirt bikes, and you know, they are, I mean, there was just like little tour guide tours they were doing, so they had lots of them. They don't go very fast, and they're dangerous when you do go fast on them. You know, a lot more people die from them on farms than they do on from motorbikes. Not on the roads, obviously, by the amount of them there are, but they don't go very well on the roads. But they're just cruising along anyway. They can go do some pretty cool things off-road too, you know. If you're ever going to hire one of those though, you want to be particularly careful that you're not exceeding your skill level at any time, because they will make you come down to earth very quickly. So yeah, we kept doing this. I think we joined a road against up here. We joined it up here, but that's what we were doing. We're just doing lots of little getting on roads, then going back off road again, then getting back on main highways, and it was good fun. And we'd stop along the way. There was a few little touristy places, but they had fantastic views, so you know, you take them. But yeah, we stopped probably 20 times for the whole day. That's fine, I was enjoying it, you know. You were telling me about different areas and stuff like that. There's a little community that lives up here on the mountain. They make all their money from making little blankets and hats and little souvenir type things. So they're always pretty happy when someone comes along. It's a bit of a setup, but Machu Picchu, when we went to Machu Picchu, we stopped here as well. Make a noise as I get off the bike. 1, 2.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Hey. I always make a noise, like a grandpa noise. Just one of the little towns we stopped along the way with the market stalls. There's dancers, and I don't know what these people were doing. They were here, they just stood there the whole time. I gave them a couple of dollars, but they didn't really. They made some noises with these seashells. I don't know where they got the seashells from. It's another one of these towns. I had a guy here who he's got a. You can see him in the distance there, and I was trying to get him to do an angry face for me. There'll be a picture of him later on, I think. Yeah, this is one of the single trackers. We went up and. A little bit hairy in places, but it was good fun. You never knew what was coming around the corner because when I say single track, it was just a single road, but it was dual. So there's cars coming the other way as well. So I had him out in front, so if anyone was going to hit anyone, it was going to be him. So just village after village you go through, you get maybe a kilometre of road and then a little tiny village again. Just got to be a bit careful around places like this. Keep the bike straight through the mud, especially my bike. Just cruising on, we're doing about 30 kilometres an hour, like 20 miles an hour. 50. There wasn't too many bad spots, you know. There was between some of the farms. There was we had a couple of pretty muddy spots, but most of this was pretty good. When it's hard, when the clay is hard, it's fine. You don't, you know, there's no slip surfaces. But once you get a bit of I mean, if it rained pretty heavy, this would be a pretty slippery road because it's just clay. A lot of it's clay anyway. It's just beautiful scenery around you. I can ride all day in this stuff. I just really love it. Be a lot more fun if I learned how to ride a dirt bike again and got back into that. That'd be pretty cool to get a dirt bike better. There's nothing around Florida for that though. Your ass is pretty much out of the seat a lot of the time. Even though you're not standing up, you're just like an inch off the seat a lot of the time. Because you just, especially over a long distance, you don't want to be hurting your back. And as the bike jumps over bumps, if you're sitting down, it just keeps compressing down the bottom of your back, and you can end up getting pretty sore. So it's always good to just keep your feet on the pegs really strong when you go over any bump, and you just learn to just lift your ass just a little bit all the time. You know, you don't even. It just becomes second nature after a while. I'd love to do so much more of this though, because you learn so much as you go, and you learn how to, you know, kick the bike out a little bit on the corners and stuff like that, and it makes it a little bit more fun. You got to pick your spots, but when I was going down further south in Patagonia, I was practicing doing around corners, and I nearly lost it probably 4 or 5 times. Just from, you know, giving it a bit of a kick out on the rear, and it just, you know, the bike, with my bike, when you've got the traction control on, it just wants to grip all the time, you know, and you've got the off-road traction control, but it still just wants to grip. and so it can really bite in. And if you just got to keep your body loose on it and keep your balance centered, and it'll just center back around. But it can provide a few little hairy moments, you know, because when you're doing it, you know, if you're going to kick it out, you're going to have to be going minimum 30-40 kilometers an hour, you know, 25-30 miles an hour. You're not going to get any kick out. So it can, you know, you can give yourself, but once you get confidence in your bike, you're fine, you know. I was always watching him up ahead, because when he went wide on a road, I was thinking, oh, there's either mud or there's a car coming. We hardly saw anyone though, maybe just a few little vehicles, a couple of motorbikes and stuff like that. That's pretty much all we saw on this road, I think. It's probably the one disappointing thing about the cameras is, like, right now I'm probably 20 meters from it, but it looks like 40 meters. And then when you get the big scenery views where you're looking at it yourself out of your own eyes, it's amazing. And then you see it and it's a lot further away. So whenever someone rides with me and I've got the camera on the back, I tell them, if you want to get a good photo or good video of yourself, you've got to sit to my right side or left side, but really, really close. Otherwise it looks like you're a long way on it. The GoPros do it, the TG Tracker does it, not as much. And this is the Ghost S on my helmet. As you can see, we've got that river to the right, just raging along. I don't know if anyone can ever swim in those sort of things. They're just going so fast. I imagine there'd be a few deaths every year. I mean, we saw big logs just racing down the river, you know. Really pretty. They grow pretty much everything here too. Like the farmers are, you know, they've got sheep, cattle, corn. So much fun. So what I should, as I said before, get a local tour guide if you can afford it, especially if it's a group of 5 or 6. It's only going to cost you $20-30 each, and you'll have a fantastic day out where you don't have to worry about anything. The guy's going to take you everywhere. It's on the wrong side of the road there. And you'll find that a lot of these, you'll get these roads a lot when you do, I call them cut-throughs, where you see your roads going one way direction, and then you see another road that joins up the two. They're really good fun, and I always suggest that if you can plan your trips and get a paper map where you can say, okay, we're going to do this cut through, and then just mark, because you can mark it on your own map. If you've got your own Google Maps, you can mark where you want to do a turn off, and it's always a smart move to do that. Not a smart move, but it's a fun move, you know. It ends up taking a 4 or 5 hour riding day to a 6 or 7, but who cares? It's so much more fun doing those cut-throughs where you leave the highway at one point, you go on a dirt road, or they're all dirt, or a crushed rock. They call them ripio roads, and you basically cut through to the other and join it somewhere else. And usually it's pretty cool riding, and some pretty crazy mountains that you get to see. And just always be patient, you know. I mean, this guy's a lot better off-roader than me, and we're going through a fair bit of mud now, and he's probably, you know, 80, 100 metres in front of me now, or 50, 60. You want to stay off the centre strip whenever there's grass or anything like that. Usually there's a lot of shit that's been kicked up from the sides into it. Normally, I mean, this sort of road's pretty good, you know, you're not gonna, you'd have to do something pretty silly to come off on this sort of road, but it does happen. Like, it's pretty easy to do if you're going too fast or something like that, and then you do have a little panic. Puerto Rico, when I went there, they had a lot of this, but a lot really deep, like 4 foot deep water. Water. It was so much fun. You got absolutely filthy at the end of the day, but it was a lot of fun. So as I say, we're coming through a little bit of a town now. It's usually a little bit more beaten up. I'm just following his line. He gets in trouble, I can just take a different line. But normally this is because there's cars going a lot more often up this sort of road. I think now we join back onto the main highway again. We had 5 or 6 of these. They're all pretty much the same. My bike doesn't handle this that well. My tyres, I should say. Although I don't have as much weight on the bike because I've got all my gear off it. But we did quite a few of these little off-road treks through all these villages. It was good fun. Soccer, they love their soccer in these countries, the kids. A lot of abandoned buildings as well, like they're sort of they've been built and then half finished type thing. These are some of the photos of the trip. It's good to have someone who knows where to go. It's pretty cool. Lots of bridges crossing back onto the main roads a lot, and then back into the villages. Even those small villages, you can imagine a bridge like that, the cost is pretty high, and they have to keep connecting back to the villages. We stopped off at a few places along the way. This is going to the Maras salt flats. The Maras salt, so you get right up high in the mountains, and then you go right down into the salt. It's just like a salt mine, and they have all these ponds that are evaporative ponds, so that it gets rid of the water and then all the salt's left inside it. And this place here you had to pay to get in, and we didn't want to pay to get in. Like we were just going to go there and take photos. So we tried to take some photos from the car park. This guy came running over saying no photos. You know, you can't tell me not to take photos. You know, Jesus. You know, and I had my GoPro on a extender, and I was just taking some photos of it, but he was just being a dick, so I just left. There's that photo he took of me crossing the bridge. That was going one way, and then we took another one going the other way later on. Again, that's a setup, just the GoPro on the stand. That was phenomenal to look at, but you can't tell from that photo, from that video. This is the video of us heading back, I think. Sped it up a little bit. It's just pretty much the same all the way through. See the Cusco down below. Actually, this was, this was coming back into the city, yeah. Some of the local riders, they absolutely fly, and their bikes make so much noise because they're throttling them to the max, Christopher didn't like anyone overtaking him, he told me. That guy, overtook him, and then he just goes and stops off 200 metres further up the road. So these were some of the roads that we took going back. So we went back the long way, didn't go on the highway, but we had to go bits on the highway, but it was a lot of fun, a lot of twisties. Again, only doing 70-80 k's an hour, nothing extreme, about 50 mile an hour. And you've always, especially when you do the rural sort of riding, you've got to be really careful because there's animals on the road always, And if you're flying and you come around a corner and there's some alpacas or some sheep or cattle on the road, yeah, you're gonna get yourself in trouble, But any time you ride these sort of roads, always good fun. Sneeze there. Beautiful countryside, Peru, absolutely stunning. One of the best places to ride, probably the most dangerous place to ride. That's a photo coming back around that corner. That's coming up from the salt mine. It's me trying to do a little skid. Not successful. That was before we set off in the morning. Took a photo. This is one of the places we stopped for a view, and I just set the GoPro off across the road. Didn't turn out that well. That's just coming outside of the salt mines. That's another ruined site. Just a selfie. Going around the corner. That's Christopher. Really good, really nice guy. Beautiful scenery all the way through. It's such a pleasure to ride when you ride through this sort of stuff. It's just, you could stop every 5 minutes, A lot of fun, and you got to concentrate though. That's another ruined site. This is where we had lunch. Inca restaurant. It was really good, full buffet lunch. That was a salt mines just back there. That's Christopher himself. That's just stopping somewhere and getting my camera set up. There's another one crossing the bridge, another bridge. I think it's the same, maybe the same one, I'm not sure. Just going through some of the little towns along the way. We're pretty high up here. That's why you're struggling as I put their feet down and try to waddle myself around there. But you're pretty high up here, and if you start walking like 100 metres or something, you'll start puffing, unless you're used to it. The kids in these towns, you know, probably 10,000 feet up, who are playing soccer and stuff like that. So I get the sound up here. Sounds pretty good. I'll let the sound just speak for itself in these last couple. Kicked out a little bit there. Videos of me returning. I tried to kick it out a bit on the side, but I wasn't going past it. And these last few, this is one of the type of videos it takes, just a massive time lapse. You can run for like 20-30 minutes, it goes into about 10 seconds. There was a couple from Texas in that truck there we went overtook, travelling around. Let's kill the shot. Christopher. This is where I try to get this guy to make an angry face, and I don't know if we've got the picture here, but that's his angry face. There's no anger at all. It's like, what the friggin' hell am I doing? That's looking down into the salt mines. Anyway, questions or comments below, guys. Thank you.